Dinosaurs reigned over the Earth for 160 million years. It once appeared as though they would forever dominate the biosphere. But in a single day, their world was obliterated by an enormous rock, the size of Mount Everest, that plummeted from the heavens. This is the tale of how the age of ancient reptiles came to a close. The final day of the dinosaurs. Earth, 66 million years ago. The conclusion of the Cretaceous period, the last chapter of the Mesozoic era. The fragments of the Pangaea supercontinent had almost completely separated. The Earth's geography resembled its current form, though it wasn't entirely the same. By this time, North and South America had divided. Africa, Australia, and Greenland already shared their present-day contours. Meanwhile, Europe and Asia were beginning to take shape. The towering ranges of Siberia, Mongolia, the Andes, and the Cordillera were all forming. The continent still very much in motion. The Cretaceous period endured for 79 million years, making it the longest period in the Mesozoic era. During that stretch of time, the planet's climate shifted several times. By its end, the Earth had grown relatively cool. Polar ice caps had formed, and winters had become much more severe. In some areas, temperatures dipped below -10 degrees Celsius, and even plummeted to -45 degrees in regions like Alaska. Yet overall, the Earth was still warmer than it is today. Lush plant life blanketed the land masses. This was the era when flowering plants made their debut. Forests grew thick with conifers, ginkgo, and tree species from earlier periods. But now they were joined by trees that resembled modern-day walnuts, ash, and beech. The decomposing matter from this flora enriched the soil's top layer, creating a more fertile ground for the herbs just beginning to emerge. With the rise of flowering plants came a parallel evolution in the insect world. Butterflies and bees began to flutter, spreading pollen far and wide. Pollinated flowers produced seeded fruits, becoming a key food source for numerous animal species, including birds. This development spurred the evolution of herbivorous dinosaurs and a variety of mammalian species. Under these favorable conditions, the number of carnivores, hoofed mammals, insectivores, and early primates increased. Still, they remained relatively small. Most mammals were tiny rodents or predators. For instance, in Argentina, scientists unearthed the fossilized skull of a creature called Granopio dentiacudus. This 20-centimeter-long mammal, nicknamed the saber-toothed squirrel, had an extended snout adorned with long fangs. It likely feasted on insects. But larger animals had also begun to emerge. In Madagascar, researchers discovered the remains of the massive herbivorous Ventana certici. This mammal had a peculiar look, featuring prominent crests on both sides of its skull for protection, along with a remarkably keen sense of smell. Weighing in at 9 kilograms, it was roughly 3 times the size of modern marmots. However, the true behemoth of the Cretaceous mammals was Repenomamus. Measuring a meter in length and weighing 12 to 14 kilograms, it bore a resemblance to today's Tasmanian devil, or a compact, muscular dog. This predator even preyed on small or freshly hatched dinosaurs. Still, dinosaurs represented the peak of prehistoric evolution. They were the apex predators of the Mesozoic era. A vast number of species, varying greatly in size, roamed all corners of the globe. Among the tiniest was Oculudentavis hungrai. Its skull, including the beak, measured just 14 millimeters. Paleontologists have yet to uncover the torso bones, but based on the size of its head, it was likely no bigger than a hummingbird. At the other extreme was Alamosaurus, believed to be the largest creature to ever walk the earth. These giants could reach 29 meters in height, weigh up to 38 tons, and possess tails extending 12 meters long. 5 hours until impact. On this day, like any other, animals of every size were occupied with their routines, searching for food, caring for young, hunting prey. A herd of 50 Alamosaurus made its way across the Yucatan Peninsula in search of fresh foliage. Being herbivores, they needed to consume up to a ton of plant matter daily to survive. It could take days for them to strip a forest of its leaves, so they led nomadic lives, constantly moving. Elsewhere, a middle-aged Tarbosaurus prowled through the floodplains of what is now Mongolia and China. This predator, measuring 14 meters in length, is considered the largest carnivorous dinosaur of the Cretaceous. On this day, it ventured out in search of prey. Medium-sized creatures and smaller dinosaurs frequented the area for water, promising a fruitful hunt. Like other Tarbosaurus, it walked upright on 2 hind legs. Its tiny 2-fingered arms were oddly small in proportion, but still useful for gripping prey or scooping up fish with its sharp claws. The real weapon, though, was its fearsome mouth, packed with around 60 razor-sharp teeth, some reaching lengths of 85 millimeters. 3 hours until impact. Far to the east in North America, an adult Pachycephalosaurus went about its day. This dinosaur stretched 4.5 meters long, weighed roughly 450 kilograms, and appeared quite formidable. Its most notable feature was its skull, topped with a 25-centimeter thick dome of bone, likely used to absorb impacts during combat with rivals. Bony knobs adorned the back of its dome, while short spikes jutted from its snout. Primarily herbivorous, Pachycephalosaurus munched on leaves, seeds, and fruit using small yet sharp teeth. However, evidence suggests it wasn't strictly plant-based. It may have eaten amphibians, shell-less invertebrates, mammals, or even hatchling dinosaurs. On this day, the Pachycephalosaurus ventured toward the ocean's edge, where trees offered seed-rich meals. The nearby lagoons teemed with ammonite mollusks, lizards, and other small animals. Meanwhile, in western North America, a female Ankylosaurus entered a forest with her 4 hatchlings in tow, in search of lunch. She resembled a nightmarish hybrid beast, with the mass of a rhinoceros, or even a full-grown African elephant. Her body was encased in armor-like bone plating, and she wielded a formidable club-shaped growth on her tail. Despite her frightening appearance, Ankylosaurus was a gentle plant eater. The tail club wasn't used for hunting, but for protection against both predators and rival dinosaurs. Confident under their mother's protective watch, the family wandered into the forest near the emerging Rocky Mountains, 2 hours until impact. Elsewhere in North America, young dinosaurs were embroiled in a brutal encounter. A careless Carnotaurus had stumbled into the territory of a Tyrannosaurus rex, unaware of the lurking danger. Though Carnotaurus could sprint at 50 kilometers per hour, faster than a T-Rex's 40 km/h. This time, the ambush came too suddenly to flee. The intruder's scent had long betrayed it. T-Rex had an exceptional sense of smell, far more developed than many of its dinosaur contemporaries. Its visual prowess was equally formidable, sharp enough to rival that of a hawk. With binocular vision, the T-Rex could merge images from both eyes into one, allowing it to judge distances with deadly precision. Sensing an opportunity for food and territorial dominance, the T-Rex launched its attack. Cannibalism wasn't rare. This predator would eagerly feast on others of its kind. The odds were overwhelmingly in the T-Rex's favor. The mass difference was staggering. Weighing up to 8 tons, the T-Rex dwarfed the Carnotaurus, outmatching it in strength, size, and muscle density. The horned protrusions above the Carnotaurus's eyes were no match for the crushing bite force of its rival. Within moments, the Carnotaurus was torn apart. The T-Rex wasted no time and began its gruesome meal. It was a stroke of luck for the predator, who needed up to 100 kilograms of meat daily, equal to the intake of 3 or 4 lions combined. Lost in its feast, the giant predator didn't notice the growing light in the sky, an ominous glow that expanded with each passing second. 10 minutes until impact. A colossal asteroid was now barreling toward Earth. Within mere minutes, it would wipe out 75% of all living organisms in what is now known as the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event. In 1980, scientists introduced the theory that a massive asteroid impact was responsible for this cataclysm. Their evidence? Unusually high concentrations of iridium, an element rarely found on Earth, in clay layers dated to 66 million years ago. Iridium is far more common in certain kinds of space rocks, earning it the nickname space metal. This led scientists to conclude that the metal must have arrived with the asteroid impact. A decade later, another team of researchers pinpointed the impact location, a crater spanning 180 kilometers across on the Yucatan Peninsula. It was named Chicxulub. Its age precisely matched the timing of the mass extinction. The highest concentrations of iridium were found near its center, gradually decreasing the farther away samples were taken. In New Jersey, excavations uncovered 25,000 fossilized animal fragments, all dating back to that very day. These remains provided additional proof of the mass death triggered by the impact. 2 minutes until impact. While our Tyrannosaurus was still enjoying its feast, a rock 10 kilometers wide and weighing trillions of tons pierced Earth's atmosphere. Gravity yanked the asteroid downward with immense force, accelerating it to a mind-boggling 20 kilometers per second. The object compressed air beneath it like a piston, heating it through friction to tens of thousands of degrees Celsius. The asteroid became brighter than the sun. Oblivious to what was coming, the T-Rex paused its meal and glanced upward. It was instantly blinded by the sky's blazing light. Shutting its eyes and ducking its head offered no relief. The intense brightness seared through its eyelids. The heat scorched its skin, and nearby vegetation erupted into flames. A moment later, the asteroid passed over the horizon, trailing a glowing sky in its wake. The T-Rex had a brief reprieve, but it wouldn't last. Impact. The asteroid slammed into the Gulf of Mexico, just off the northern coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. The force of the collision released energy equivalent to 10 billion Hiroshima bombs, unleashed all at once. The impact drove the asteroid 20 kilometers into the Earth's crust. The entire globe rang with the shock, like 1,000 bells set off simultaneously. To grasp the scale, consider that the 1883 Krakatoa volcanic eruption ruptured eardrums of sailors 70 kilometers away. The asteroid's blast was 1,000,000 times stronger. Shock waves erupted outward at speeds faster than sound. They were so powerful, they stripped the flesh off animals, flung them into the air, and obliterated everything in their path. Even hundreds of kilometers from ground zero, the mightiest dinosaurs were hurled like toys. The Tyrannosaurus rex was killed instantly. The shockwave gave it a lethal concussion, then lifted its enormous body into the air. It was dead before it hit the ground. The wave continued, circling the globe multiple times. Even before the T-Rex perished, the herd of Alamosaurus, the gentle giants we saw earlier, were vaporized. They had been grazing mere kilometers from the impact site. The searing heat incinerated them on the spot. Their skeletons were reduced to ash. Farther from the crater, the female Ankylosaurus and her 4 babies were peacefully nibbling leaves in the forest. Although they were hundreds of kilometers away, they perished even earlier than the Alamosaurus. Fires ignited by the asteroid's friction in the atmosphere reached their forest first. Flames engulfed the area, offering no escape for the armored family. The asteroid impact blasted 15 trillion tons of Earth's rock into the sky. Some debris shot beyond the atmosphere. Most of it returned. Enormous boulders the size of buildings fell back to Earth like deadly hailstones. At the same time, a rain of molten glass began. Tiny 5-millimeter pebbles, hot and deadly, showered down, causing untold devastation. Countless animals perished under the bombardment of fire and stone. One creature, initially spared, was the Pachycephalosaurus, who had been foraging near the ocean in North America. It escaped the flames and the falling boulders, but its survival was short-lived. From the sea, a monstrous tsunami, rising 100 meters high, rushed ashore. To grasp the scale, compare it to the 2011 tsunami that struck Japan. That wave, only 10 meters high, caused massive devastation. This asteroid-triggered wave penetrated thousands of kilometers inland, submerging nearly the entire future territory of the United States. Even in North Dakota, scientists found evidence of the tsunami's impact. One of those colossal waves engulfed the Pachycephalosaurus, dragging its body into the sea and burying it in the depths. Elsewhere, Mongolia, an elderly Tarbosaurus wandered through the forest, hunting for food. This region, far from the impact site, still harbored diverse dinosaur species, but disaster was quickly closing in. The asteroid strike had triggered worldwide earthquakes, some measuring up to 11.2 on the magnitude scale. These quakes were 50 times more powerful than any modern earthquake. For comparison, the strongest quake humans have recorded, the 1960 Great Chilean Earthquake, registered 9.5. A 1-point increase in magnitude translates to roughly 30 times more energy released. The planet quaked violently. Volcanoes across the globe erupted in unison. 70 billion tons of dust, ash, carbon monoxide, and sulfuric gases spewed into the sky. As the volcanic materials rained back down, they created massive friction in the atmosphere. This ignited a global firestorm. A gigantic scorching dust cloud spread at speeds of 18,000 kilometers per hour, incinerating everything in its path. Mongolia wasn't spared. Temperatures there soared to 150 degrees Celsius. Within 90 minutes of the impact, nearly every living creature on Earth was dead, or almost every creature. A few managed to survive, including our elderly Tarbosaurus, who found shelter in an underground cave. Several other animals joined it, taking refuge while the apocalyptic heat passed overhead. Eventually, the temperature began to fall, but it wasn't over. Next came acid rain. Hundreds of billions of tons of sulfur compounds had been released into the atmosphere. When they combined with water vapor, they fell back to Earth as sulfuric acid rain, poisoning soil, rivers, lakes, and oceans. Then came the darkness. A thick veil of dust and ash enshrouded the planet, blocking out sunlight. Even at midday, it was as dark as a moonless night. Global temperatures plummeted by 28 degrees Celsius. An impact winter had begun. When hunger and thirst finally drove the Tarbosaurus and the others from the cave, they emerged into a world that looked nothing like the one they remembered. Cold, dark, and lifeless. Only decay fungi and molds managed to thrive in the new conditions. No food remained for the surviving dinosaurs. Starvation took them one by one. Our Tarbosaurus eventually succumbed as well. It may have been the last dinosaur to walk the Earth. Still, some scientists theorize that a few dinosaur eggs might have survived deep underground. From these, isolated individuals could have hatched and emerged for a short time. But the freezing temperatures, lack of food, and rampant disease ensured their extinction soon after. Thus ended the reign of the dinosaurs. The Cenozoic era had begun. In time, the ash clouds cleared. Sunlight and warmth returned to the planet's surface. Nature began to recover. First came the hardy plants, towering horsetails, and resilient ferns. These were soon followed by flowering plants and grasses. Then came the animals. For millions of years, they had lived in the shadow of the dinosaurs. But now, it was their time. Mammals. Some had survived by hiding in underground tunnels. Others had taken refuge in trees. These creatures were small, adaptable, and quick to reproduce. They needed relatively little food and could endure extreme conditions. It was the perfect formula for success. From this new evolutionary surge came the species that would one day rule the Earth, Homo sapiens. Today, humans are the dominant force on the planet. But in the grand timeline of life, we are newcomers. Only a few million years have passed since we first took over. Will we remain rulers for 160 million years, like the ancient reptiles? Only time will tell.